What's up, you guys? Could you skip it here? Before I get started with today's video, I want to say that the song I put in my intro today, is by thebrooke, TheBrooke. I'm going to link her channel in the description. I've been a fan of hers for a while. She's very, very good. She just released a shit ton of covers the last couple of days, so go check her out. Thank you. Anyways, we're talking about the top 5 anti-Zodiac cards. So Zodiac, pretty interesting commodity in the game right now, as are most commodities in the game nowadays. The deck has Exceed plays. The deck has one-card Exceed plays, actually. The fact that this entire deck operates on one-card engines is something that I don't really think we've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Before. You know, if you remember Six Samurai, when they were trying to push synchros and all that, yeah, they had one-card synchros, like, let's say, Double Edge, maybe, which had the potential to be combo pieces, I would say. But in general, we haven't really seen any decks that just are complete around one-card Exceeds. We've had cards like Coach Soldier Wolfbark, but literally just summon this and it becomes the one-card Exceed material. You know, like, it's a pretty interesting deck, but does that make the deck unbeatable? No. Is it the best deck right now? Probably. So, with that said, I'm going to run through 5 cards that you can use to beat Zodiacs. And I'm never calling them Zodiac, by the way. The name's fucking stupid. I think it's stupid they even changed the name. Like, oh no, we have Zodiac in there, so we have to change it because it's going to offend somebody. If you're offended by that, fuck you. Anyways, so we got number 5, Black Horn of Heaven. So Black Horn of Heaven, it's a card that hasn't seen the light of day since, like, hat format. So, like, it pretty much fell off the radar, like, completely when Duelist Alliance format came out. That said, though, I feel like this card could make a bit of a comeback right now for a couple of reasons. One, because it stops any kind of Exceed the Zodiac deck wants to do, which is actually very, very, very versatile, at least in this kind of a format where pretty much every deck is splashing Malmarat in at some, they're playing some kind of Zodiac deck in some form or another. You know, there's 60-card Infernoid Zodiac, there's Pure Zodiac, there's Zodiac Kaiju, there's so many different variants of the deck. So it's weird. But I think that because a lot of decks nowadays, especially the decks that are topping, you know, the last YCS or whatever, maybe it was the YCS before, I don't remember, all the days running together now, was it 30 of the top 32 are running some variant of Zodiac or playing Malmarat in their deck or something like that. So, I mean, Black Horn of Heaven, just in the kind of format we're currently in at this very moment, can actually be a pretty good card right now. You know, it stops their first Exceed or their second Exceed, depending on if they have Malmarat equipped as one of the Exceed materials. But nonetheless, it really stops the deck more or less dead in their tracks unless they have Circle. But, I mean, Circle's the out to pretty much everything in that deck. So, I mean, and if, like, being able to potentially stop their plays pretty much with a turn unless they have Tarot Top or Circle is pretty good. And if that's the only backer you have, you know what, potentially stopping their plays for the entire turn of one card is definitely no loss. But usually you're going to have more than just a Black Horn, which is why I put it at 5, though. And also, just as a side note, it also does stop ABC Buster Dragon, which is very, very relevant. Because, you know, as much as ABCs aren't seen nearly as much as Zodiacs nowadays, it does help if you have an extra answer against a different deck that you may see. Number 4, Floodgate Trap Hole. So it kind of goes along the same line of thinking as Black Horn of Heaven, only it's more versatile because you can use it on normal summons, special summons. Like, it's not, you can use it you can Floodgate Trap Hole 5 monsters against pendulums. You know, it's basically like Black Horn, only it's a permanent Book of Moon. But you know what, I'll take a permanent Book of Moon because at the end of the day, you know, really all you're trying to do is stun your opponent. You know, if you're playing stun cards like Black Horn, Floodgate Trap Hole, you know, you're trying to stun your opponent, and that's definitely, Floodgate Trap Hole is definitely one of the best cards for such a task. You know, you can search it off from Emilio. It's definitely a really, really good card right now. Number 3, Needle Sealing. This is a card that nobody's thought about since, you guessed it, hat format. Like, Needle Sealing is surprisingly good. You know, for one, it isn't half bad against the ABC deck. And not to mention that against Zodiacs, they'll have the one Exceed, they'll have the other monster on the field, they'll have a Malmarat on the field, then they're going to reattach off of the graveyard, detach, and bring out a third monster. And if you get lucky and they throw a fourth monster into play, you just Needle Sealing and break their entire field with one card. You know, like I said, it's not the most versatile option, but it has, I believe, the most impact out of the cards I mentioned so far. Number 2, Flying Sea. Flying Sea, this card has caught on in recent memory, I would say. Flying Sea, just with its ability, like, you literally summon a Malmarat, you Flying Sea them. What are they going to do? Unless they have Book of Eclipse, I guess. Like, they're not getting around Flying Sea unless they crash Flying Sea into something, which is hilarious because then you just don't summon anything, and all the monsters have very little attack. Their highest attack monster in the deck is what, 1600, I think, which is it's below par for the course. You know what I mean? So it's all about stunning your opponent and buying time, because again, if you break their setup, this is a deck that actually has recovery though. So Flying Sea, if you're able to stop their plays for a turn or two, and you set up your own field, they're usually not going to be able to come back from it. Because, like, let's say they go first, and they summon Malmarat, you Flying Sea them, and then on your turn, you just, like, I've done this plenty of times, I Flying Sea them, and then, like, on my turn, like, whether it's you explode, because they're usually not going to have a lot of answers at that point, because they don't have Drancia to detach to pop something. Or even better, they have a couple back row or whatever. They strike some of your stuff, they warning some of your stuff. But then at the end of the day, they're whittling down their answers while you're still gonna have, like, your entire deck is still at your disposal while the Flying Sea's just there killing them. But Flying Sea, I would probably recommend it more in the side deck than anything, because at the end of the day, I'm not sure how good it is in the main deck. It's still decent against ABC. It's not the best versus Pendulums, though, so this is why it stays at number 2. And my number 1 anti-Zodiac card, Summon Limit. Summon Limit is amazing right now. I give zero shits what anybody says. I will put this at number 1, and I will keep it at number 1. I wanted to try putting a Summon Breaker somewhere on this list, but my problem with that is that people can play around it way too easily. I built a deck with triple Summon Limit, triple Summon Breaker, and I found that every time that I had Summon Limit against him, against a Zodiac deck I was testing against, it was just, like, devastating. I was like, okay, cool. And then every time I would have Summon Breaker into play, they would summon a monster and then immediately Drancia it. Dry it out, whatever. And as good as that was in theory, they're still able to do plays after that. So if you can still do plays after that, and you're successfully breaking the card that's trying to stop your plays, no pun intended for it being Summon Breaker, I just found that it wasn't quite as good. Plus, with Summon Limit, you can chain Summon Limit after your opponent's... You can flip Summon Limit after your opponent has already summoned 2 monsters, and then that stops their summoning for the entire turn. They summon Malmarat, they overlay with 1 Exceed, and then you Summon Limit them, and they can't summon anything else. They can't overlay into Drydet, they can't overlay into any of the other Zodiac Exceeds. It stops their plays for the entire turn, which is hilarious. So if you go and, like, they say Special Terror Top, Special Attack on Tomborg, Summon Limit. They can't even normal summon the Malmarat or anything. So I feel that with Summon Limit, just being able to successfully stop all your opponent's plays, it's a cost-free card, mind you. If you play it in a deck that doesn't need a lot of normal summons, or a lot of summons in general, actually, it really just renders the entire Zodiac deck moot, because usually you're going to be able to just break their setup next turn. And the reason why I put it at number 1 was because this card single-handedly, unless your opponent wants to go -1 on a Twin Twister on it, if it's literally the only card in your spell and trap card zone, that one card can stop your opponent's entire deck. If I have a Wicked Witch in play and I flip a Summon Limit, I mean, for the most part, Zodiac can't really do anything. They summon 1 monster, they overlay for the first Exceed, you Summon Limit them, they're still at 0 attack, you swing into it, and their setup's broke. They really do, and the best thing they can do is normal summon a Malmarat, burn another one, basically, and summon immediately into Drydet, and if you have Blackhorn of Heaven, Floodgate Trap Hole, any of the cards that I mentioned before, or even a fucking Effect Veiler, their entire setup's done. And really, you can just easily outpace them once you bring them down to your speed. It's kind of like Goes a Match or something like that versus Wind-Ups. It brings them down to your speed. And really, that's the way to beat Zodiacs. I said the way to beat Cosmo way back when was reaction. A lot of the best ways to beat Zodiac are bringing them down to your speed. So that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you think I missed any cards, leave a comment. Special honorable mention to Raw Sphere mode. I just found that some decks need to normal summon a bit too much for me to put it on the list. So that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you next time. Peace.